In 1972, four young Chicano artists spray painted their own names across the entrance of the Los Angeles County Museum of Art and called it the largest work of Chicano art in existence. My name is Santiago Segura, and this is a look at Asco, the East LA art collective that argued its way into art history. Asco's early conceptual performances revealed that the Chicano art movement was never a single unified voice. By deliberately breaking from the muralist tradition that had come to define Chicano art, Osco shows us that social movements advance as much through internal dissent and reinvention as through unified protests, and that one art movement can hold multiple competing visions of liberation at once. To make that case, I'll walk through the historical context Osco emerged from, analyze three of their key performances, apply a context and multiculturalism methodology, and close with what this teaches us about history and society. Asco came out of El Movimiento, the Chicano civil rights movement of 1960s and 70s. That movement dominant that movement's dominant visual language was muralism. Public murals across East LA celebrating indigenous heritage labor and community pride. Then in 1970, the Chicano Moratorium, a massive anti Vietnam War march, turned violent after police intervention and journalist Ruben Salazar was killed. That event radicalized a generation and hardened muralism's role as the official voice of Chicano identity, which is exactly the standard Osco would push against. Asco, Spanish for disgust or nausea, took its name from critics who said the group's work asco them. Its four founders were Harry Gamboa Jr., who documented the group's performance through photography, Patsy Valdez, who became the group's reoccurring performer and stylist, Gronk, a painter turned performance artist, and Willie Heron III, who notably was trained as a traditional muralist before helping reinvent it. The first work is Spray Paint Lakma, 1972. Three members tagged their surnames across the museum's entrance at night. The next morning, Gamboa photographed Valdez posed beside the graffiti, as seen in the picture. Its genre is conceptual, performance based art, and it's preserved only through documentary photography, which isn't a mural or painting, it's an act. Formally, the loose, hand sprayed signatures work like ready made museum labels, claiming authorship the way an artwork's wall text would. While this claim post stands contrast with the illicit act behind her. The stark black spray paint against pale institutional stone throws the photograph itself into focus as the real artwork. And the scale is deliberately absurd, a few names on the wall rhetorically inflated into the largest work of Chicano art in existence. This piece exists because a LACMA curator dismissed Chicano art outright, telling Gamboa that Chicanos didn't make art, they joined gangs. Rather than ask for inclusion, Asco acclaimed the museum itself as their ready made artwork. That's a short departure from muralism's strategy of building community art outside institutions. Asco confronted the institution directly. Later that same year came Walking Mural. Members costumed themselves as a mural come to life, parading silently down Whittier Boulevard, East LA's main commercial street, on Christmas Eve. Formally, the body itself becomes the picture plane. Costume mimics mural color and pattern, but it's mobile and temporary rather than being painted on a wall. This effect startles the holiday shoppers, which turns in the passive genre, the wall mural, into an active public disruption. In 1974's Instant Mural, Gronk duct taped Valdez to a wall, styled in new wave makeup and platform shoes, improvising a mural out of masking tape and a living body instead of paint. The cheap temporary paint replaces pigment, and Valdez's three dimensional, theoretically posed body breaks the wall's flatness. It reads as a metaphor for confinement, how poverty, discrimination, and rigid expectations of identity can pin a person in place. I'm reading these works through two methodologies. First, context. Each performance only makes sense against its exact moment, post moratorium East LA, Lakma's exclusion of a Chicano artist, and muralism's rise as the movement's dominant voice. Second, multiculturalism. Asco refused a single essentialist definition of Chicano art, fusing muralist references with punk, glam, and queer performance aesthetics, arguing that Chicano identity itself was plural and still being negotiated. Across all three artworks, Osco doesn't reject the Chicano movement, it argues with it. Muralism said identity was rooted and permanent on the wall. Asco's bodies and photographs said it could be mobile, ironic, and temporary. That internal disagreement itself historically significant. It shows a movement actively debating on its own image and not just broadcasting one. So, what can we learn about history and society through an art movement? Oscar's performances show that movements aren't single voices, they're ongoing arguments, shaped as much by artists challenging each other as by artists challenging the outside world. Studying Chicano art through Asco reveals a community actively redefining what its own history and identity could mean in real time. And 30 years later, after their names were washed off Lacas malls, Asco works now and hangs inside that very museum. Proof the argument they started is still being resolved. This is my research. My five academic sources listed here.